No, it's right though. You do have to plan. Because, I mean, we've been here 13 years this year, and we still forget though. We do think, okay.
I mean, the things I find amusing are people who come over and post on a Facebook group. We're over for 2 weeks. We need an electrician to come and do X, Y, and Z. Can anyone come next week? And you sort of think, if you find somebody, I wouldn't trust them.
Well, that seems to be what people are saying now. I mean, I've just said someone this morning asked me for Duncan's number, and when I sent it to her, I did add on there, give him at least 3 months notice.
Because is he that quick now?
That's why I say at least, yeah. Well, but it's weird. They ask that we'll be here for a week. Yeah, can you do it?
I know some artisans keep some slots free to allow themselves to run over if a job takes longer, and so you can, I think, sometimes get people for an emergency. Yeah,
it's not easy. I mean, I know with Duncan, he finds that he'll have it all set up, and he's like, we're off now. I've got this week and this week, and all of a sudden the first job runs over, or suddenly it stops abruptly, and has to move the jobs out. It's a nightmare.
Yes, I think being flexible and not trying to work to too tight a time scale is important. But that's why we all come to France, isn't it? We want that more relaxed lifestyle.
I think that's what they forget. Yes. You can't have both.
No.
Do you miss things like having a takeaway or anything like that? Did you have takeaways in the UK?
Not very often, because I couldn't.
Yeah,
of course.
We have a favourite Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
But we didn't have takeaways that often.
What, a favourite in the UK?
In the UK.
Yeah.
We just discovered, we were in England last week, and we discovered a fish and chip shop that does gluten free.
Wow.
Fish and chips.
Yeah. And
so I think that's going to be a regular treat when we go back.
We did avail ourselves of them.
But I can make a decent gluten-free fish batter.
Yeah. Oh, going back to the things that you miss, I said ease of communication. That's one of the things that makes me a little bit ashamed here of the Brits, because so many Brits won't learn English. French, sorry. And we looked at replacing the car recently, and decided in the end against it because there was too much money to exchange. We got complimented on our French because it was unusual. But then I think you have to work at it. I think it's more difficult for people in a job, except they've got that daily contact and use of French. But if you want to learn French, you've got to work at it.
It's such a, I mean, you always worry, don't you, that you're getting things right and whether you can think, but when they turn around and say to you, your French is good, it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We was in the south on one of our holidays a couple of years ago, and the conversation with a lady in like a gift shop, and the lady spoke to Duncan, and she didn't ask him or say your French is good, she just said, what region are you from? And, he walked up with his head like this. So I was really pleased.
But I think you will pick up regional accents in France if you're learning French, just as much as the French will pick up regional accents if they're in the UK.
Oh yes. I mean, I was watching one of the TV on France 24, I think it was. Now, a couple of ladies on there talking about accents, and they were saying there was something like 90 plus accents in France. I think, there's no chance of us learning this properly, is there? Well, or even if we go down south and we know we're using the right language, the people there would really struggle, you know. Yeah.
Well, think about if you go up to Yorkshire or Scotland, go to Glasgow and you can't understand a word they're saying.
Oh, Glaswegians is terrible. I can never understand them.
Or Shetland.
So you've got your hobby, you've got your sailing and flying. Yeah. So I think you do some sewing, don't you, Sally? Have you got other hobbies?
I do general crafts, so sewing. I'll try my hand at almost anything.
Like me.
And gardening.
Right.
So.
And do you think once you're retired, it's important to have these hobbies.
Yes.
And that,
I think,
especially in another country.
I think keeping both physically and mentally active is important for well-being. And when I retired, I used to teach young doctors, and an awful lot of them said, "You'll be bored."
It's strange, isn't it?
Don't have enough time.
No, and it is really strange because you always think you're doing it as well. We've got no choice when you get to a certain age sometimes, but it just you just think you can't fit everything in.
Yes.
Well, you can't fit everything in and have your rest periods. Put it that way.
Yeah.
You can't be on full on, can you? You've got to rest.
You can't lie around relaxing or watching the telly all the time. And in fact, if you did, you'd vegetate. And I think they've shown that learning a foreign language is very good for helping stave off dementia.
That's right.
But equally, keeping physically active. I mean, gardening is another thing that's supposed to be very good for you. Yeah, the contact with the microorganisms in the soil are good for the gut microbiome, which is good for reducing inflammation.
I think I was thinking more physical, but yeah, that's right.
Well, it keeps you physically active, but then we also we're members of a local. What did they call it? Petanque.
Oh right, yes.
So we play that.
Yeah.
Mostly, I don't play through the winter.
Do you win or?
We don't. We're not disastrous.
We hold our own.
We hold our own. We're not the worst players. We also, there's a class in the village which is a mix of yoga and Pilates. So doing yoga in French is a little bit interesting.
Yes, I've done that. It's been a bit difficult, but I'm doing chair fit at the moment. So
it's good for your language skills as well.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Again, it's like flying, isn't it? Each thing like that, they've got their own language, haven't they?
And add to things. And I try to, if I'm out in the supermarket, I'll try and hold a conversation with somebody rather than just thank you, yes, goodbye.
Do you find that the hobbies have helped you with your settling in and that? Have you done any hobbies with French?
Well, the yoga is French.
Yeah.
The petanque is. Well, I was going to say is mainly French. There are a few English.
Oh right, well, that's good to hear though. They're inclusive like that.
Yes.
And there's a walking group that they run as well, which we really must get organised. But it's been so wet. They've only started this year, and it's been so wet that we haven't wanted to commit to going for walks.
One of the proper groups with the sticks. Yeah, you see a lot. They've started now, and this time of year, there's been big batches of people we've noticed.
And then we're also part of.
And the Aero Club is all in French as well. I mean, yes, the members.
The which club? Sorry.
The Aero Club.
Aero. Oh, the flying. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm thinking chocolate mousse.
So I go for the theoretical course, which is designed for the student pilots, but it's good for us older pilots to keep up to date with it, and it's good for me to hear it all in French.
Yeah, but they're all great just for getting French friends and everything as well, isn't it?
And also we're part of the Euromayen group, which is a mixed group.
Yeah, we've been asked a few times, but it's not with Duncan working. It's not always easy because it's mainly retired people, isn't it? And things are during the week.
A lot of things are during the week. Yeah. A few weeks ago, there we went on a walk along the River Mayenne with someone from the CPIE, which is an organisation that basically supports sort of
like
natural
Suffolk wildlife, isn't it?
Oh, really?
And that was on a Saturday morning. And he was French, and I was hoping he was going to speak in French, but no, he wanted to practice his English, which is fun.
Always the way, isn't it?
But it was talking about what you can pick and eat, which was quite interesting.
Oh wow, yeah.
So although I have quite a knowledge of wild, sort of what grows, I didn't know what you could eat that was wild. So I found that interesting, and there was a chunk of French in there.
The future, do you see yourself growing old in France?
Yes.
Probably. I mean, one of the things we've done with the house, and one of the reasons for moving downstairs, apart from not being able to carry the dog down, is that we've set this up so that it's actually largely accessible. So when we can't manage the stairs anymore, if people want to come and stay, they're welcome to, but they'll have to lug the Hoover up there and get rid of all the flies.
Yes, Sally and Stephen's house is quite big, so they can separate it. What if you've got? So you've got a 4-bedroom apartment upstairs.
4-bedroom apartment upstairs.
And then how many bedrooms you've got on this floor?
This
then?
is a 1-bedroom apartment, but then we've got a space.
The other side of the building, the Grand Salle, will be a very large living dining room, 8 metres by 6. So.
But most Brits, if they've had a reasonable price property in the UK, can afford a big house here like this, can't they? And it's like, I think we had this discussion earlier saying you can then split it into a sheet and still live there and things. It's, I mean, it's a good.
This house is probably worth no less than half of what our house in the UK is worth.
Ridiculous, isn't it? And is it smaller than the UK?
The one in the UK is smaller.
It's smaller and a much smaller garden.
Yeah.
And is in the centre of the town.
But I think what people often forget is if the house that you buy in France is not in good condition, then it will cost you as much to renovate it as it does in the UK.
Yeah, it's just that initial buy, isn't it? People, attracts people. Yeah. That's right. That's why I was saying about the budget, about the renovation. People need to know, yes, you're going to buy it, but that's because it's at that level, there's going to be work needed.
Yes.
There's going to be extra costs needed, Do you anticipate any problems growing older here? Do you think there's going to be complications?
The complications will be the language. If one loses one's faculties, the chances are we'll lose the French because you lose the things that you've learnt most recently. But hopefully it will be established enough that we won't lose it completely. Hopefully we won't lose our marbles.
Well, exactly. Hence, keep doing things to keep the brain active.
Yes.
The
other issue might be distance from family. We don't have grandchildren yet, but I know a lot of people go back to England when the grandchildren
it's quite common,
appear.
Isn't it?
I'm not sure I want to be babysitter. So it's things like that I think would be the difficulty.
I must admit I hadn't thought of that you could lose the language. But I suppose, it's your memory, isn't it?
And it's and what you lose is often the most recent thing. So for us, until 12, 13 years ago, we didn't speak French. Really, it was there, for hello, goodbye, my name is. My aunt's pen, La Plume de ma tante. But that was about the extent of it. We couldn't really hold a conversation or get by very well.
No.
And whereas I think a lot of people who come to France, it's been a lifelong dream and they've come to France on holiday, so their French may be more embedded. But then you've got other people who, having been here for 20 or 30 years, still don't speak French. I mean, do you it's another question further down, but I mean, do you find it's important that you should speak? Yes. I used to encourage patients in England that they had to speak English, so I'm in France, why shouldn't I speak? Why shouldn't I be able to speak French as far as
we
possible?
We all, going on foreign holidays years ago, we always used to at least learn some of the local language just for the holiday. But we've always done it, and here, just work hard at it. I think it helped that I had O-level French.
Well, so did I, but it was only a grade C, and I think that was more good luck than anything else. And it was
Duncan came in with an
time.
O-level in French as well, so but he can always catch it quick. But he's 10 years younger than me, but he can catch it quicker. But so you're not learning it just because you want to, because you feel it's important that you should as well.
If you're going to live in a country, I think you need to be able to communicate in that country. I mean, what about if you have a car accident or you have an emergency? 2 years ago when we brought the boat over, there was a fire in
the marina just in front of us.
A boat caught fire, and after we'd very rapidly moved the boat because we didn't want to get burned, I suddenly thought, I wonder if because I couldn't hear any sirens or see any flashing lights, and I thought, I wonder if anyone else has thought to phone. So phoning the fire brigade.
Yeah.
You can't. Everyone says, oh, dial 112, they'll speak English. No, they don't. They didn't.
That is supposed to be the one to...
It's the international number, but they do not speak. It's a universal number, but they do not all speak English. And the guy on the other end did not speak English.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Certainly not at 5 a.m.
Certainly not at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Those that speak English have gone home, yeah.
Yeah. You cannot... I don't think you should be relying on... I think Brits are very lazy because English is seen as the universal language. We expect everyone to speak it. And an awful lot of them do or can, but they don't like it. And I think if you start off speaking English to people, they will often decline to admit that they can understand you or speak the language.
Yeah, I think it's the way you approach them and speak to them and whether they're
locally,
defensive.
Locally, it was often said by the Brits that the wife of the local garagiste didn't speak, and she was on the front desk at the time, didn't speak any English. But I think that is just a front, because as soon as you tried to murder her language, she then suddenly found some English. So
but because you made the effort.
Yeah, they will do, yeah. It's a two-way thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, we are in France.
Why shouldn't they speak French?
Think of the British attitude to people who don't speak English in England.
Oh.
But it is hard work. So, we do 2 hours of formal lessons per week. I do a third lesson for my own reasons. But then on top of that, we're using apps and doing private study. We probably do 8 hours of French a week.
And I try to, if I'm doing something on Facebook and someone posts an article, if it's in French, I will try and read it in the French first, see what, and then translate it to make sure that I've got the right end of the stick.
Yeah, I do try, but I do very often end up copy-pasting to Google because it doesn't always translate right, but that Google has got a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, have you tried using any learning apps or anything?
Yes, we use Duolingo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I mean, for translation, Google Translate's not bad for ordinary speech, but for more complicated stuff, I find DeepL is much better. DeepL.
Oh, I've not heard of that one.
DEEPL.
Oh, right, I'll have to look for that.
And that.
But don't you find once it's silly really, but you translate something, so you've got a sentence or a paragraph, whatever, and then you translate it. In some ways, you need to know French to know that the translation's wrong.
Yes.
But that's always a good sign if you know that, isn't it? Because you think, oh well, actually, I'm obviously learning because that's not how they would say it.
And the other thing you can do is put it, having got the French out, you can put it back in French.
And translate it back to English.
Translate it to English, and if it comes out the same, it probably is about right.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
But it's slightly amusing now if we watch films that are dubbed. Not dubbed, subtitled. We often find ourselves shouting at either the television or because that's not what she said.
No. Well, we did that. We went to see a film on Monday. We went to see the Amy Winehouse film, and it was French subtitles. And you can't help but look because they're there. But you think, I wouldn't have never have translated that to that. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
We found that with Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. But we also watch Astrid Murder in Paris on satellite on
UK TV.
UK TV.
Which is French with English subtitles.
Oh, right, yes.
And we find ourselves listening to the French and reading the subtitles and thinking, no, that's not what she meant.
No, this is it. Works both ways.
Yeah.
So that's just a good sign that you're actually learning something. Because I think sometimes you don't realise you are. Moving on to the healthcare. Obviously, have you had to use the healthcare here very much?
Unfortunately, yes.
Not a vast amount, but...
We both need regular medications, so that's fairly straightforward, and we have a médecin traitant in the village who we find is very up to date, actually, despite being 70.
10 years
really?
older than we are.
Yeah.
Has he got everything on computer?
No.
I was going to say, because the doctor I had, behind him was rows and rows and rows of paper files.
Yeah.
They do get that side of it. I think they're stuck in their ways, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a spell in hospital related to previous surgery that I'd had, and that was fine. A bit lonely in an individual room.
Very often in separate rooms, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So 4 days of that was a bit
And
boring.
that wasn't because we'd asked for a private room.
No,
it was just
you
that was
get it. Yeah,
you just got it.
you might have two in a room sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't you? But yeah. But I mean, I've got to ask the question: do you find yourself comparing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you'd asked
we're still in touch with. I mean, we've always been fans of the NHS, but my sister has a son who has cystic fibrosis, and she's not such an enthusiastic supporter of the NHS. And I have to say, from our contact still with former colleagues, that they are in crisis. And if I wanted healthcare for most conditions now, I would stay in France.
I mean, if you'd asked the question you asked earlier about what would take us back to England, if you'd asked that 5 years ago, it would have been a serious health problem. Now, it would keep us in France, because I think the treatments here are,
Available
on the
sooner.
whole, available sooner. I think there are areas of the country that have difficulties because France is if you're rural, you're often very rural. And it can be difficult to get the services.
Yeah, they do seem to be losing some of the specialists, don't they? It's getting difficult. It's sort of slightly longer waiting, but personally, I've not had to wait much at all.
No.
Some things do wind us up a little bit, so we were probably very keen on high blood pressure, the accurate measurement of blood pressure. So 140 over 90, for instance, gets abbreviated to 14 over 9 here.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you would never hear 142 over 88.
Whereas in England you would.
Ah.
So there are some differences, but
Is that a big difference though? Just that extra number?
potentially.
If you're rounding off to the nearest 10 in France, and we were always taught at medical school to
Never round up.
go to the nearest 2 millimetres of mercury.
Wow.
But which is right. The French live longer. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but
life
not
expectancy.
because of that.
No,
but it
just
does
the whole
look-
lifestyle, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
So you go to see the doctor. Do you take regular exercise? Yeah, well, he knows we do because he almost runs us over regularly.
Yeah.
But there's this idea that actually your lifestyle has an impact, and they're not afraid of telling you that.
No, I got told I was fat.
Yeah.
You couldn't translate it, so he just said to me, "Well, you're fat, madam." Thank you.
Yes, he always asks me my weight or weighs me. Yeah. There is this acceptance, I think, that there are things that affect your health, and they will tell you about them. Now,
because they're into prevention, aren't they? Rather than-
I was never the nice doctor.
Was you not?
No, I was never the nice lady doctor. I told people if they needed to lose weight, I would tell them they needed to lose weight. But
if it's needed, then
But-
they've got to hear it from you, haven't they? So.
Yeah. But on the other hand, every time we go to a GB here, he takes my blood pressure. And
See, I can't remember what happens in the UK now. But
and I haven't got high blood pressure. Whereas if somebody had high blood pressure in the UK, yes, I would have taken their blood pressure. If they hadn't had it measured and they didn't have hypertension,
you
yes,
wouldn't do it again for a year.
I probably wouldn't do it again.
but they do it every visit. They do it, don't they?
Every visit.
Just because, and especially when you're 60 plus, they seem to. All the precautions come in, and they every time I go, the minimum is to do the blood pressure.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will be to weigh me, but But they do, and obviously we get the regular checks, don't we, as well, more often.
Yeah,
the blood
and
tests
listens to
and
my
things.
heart and listens to my lungs quite at least once a year.
I find that it's peace of mind, isn't it? Because you know it's been checked, you're not worrying about it. And
Well, we wouldn't tend to anyway because we know what to look at.
well, that's true. But then can that make you paranoid as well?
I think it could make some people paranoid, and you do come across some medics who are a bit precious about some things that they don't need to be.
Yeah.
But I think we're both fairly relaxed.
So right, you said about you went to hospital, and I said, did you feel comfortable? But I mean, you were comfortable, but
I was
just
comfortable,
bored and
just a bit
because
bored,
you were in a single room, weren't you?
And because it was an intestinal obstruction, they didn't feed me or give me any fluid.
Oh.
So I missed out on that side of the hospital experience.
You say that. I mean, would that be treated differently in the UK? Do you think?
No,
no.
Oh, right.
Exactly
All
the
right.
If we
same.
starved, I might have had a drip. But,
Right. Okay. And you say you've got a GP. Do they speak English at all?
He does.
he does speak
Oh,
English.
right.
He
but-
doesn't speak. The last
But he
time I
stopped
went, I
speaking
know
English,
my
does he?
French has become better because he doesn't speak to me in
Yeah.
English anymore.
Yeah.
I had a funny experience. Some of the viewers have heard me say it before, but when I went to I'd had a biopsy and gone back in, and I was talking to him in French, and he was talking and replying to me. But then he suddenly realised that he was talking to me in English and I was talking to him in French, and we just kept going. I mean, he just thought that was hilarious. We both were getting our language in and we were practising. About the dentist, have you visit the dentist at all?
No, we haven't.
Oh,
I must
lucky.
admit, the last time I went to the dentist was in England.
Oh, right.
Not so long ago, in that I still kept the same dentist on.
Yeah, well, I
Kept
think
going.
I did a long time, yeah. That's one thing I do find is different again, but the other way, in the UK, they always, from my experience, got you to go every 6 months.
Yes.
Whereas here, you just go when you need to go, and that's different. So which is good. It's less
I
expensive.
kept on with my dentist in the UK, but I have had to point out that I'm not entitled to NHS services, and he's not taking on new NHS patients now either.
Right. So once you decided you were going to live here, did you know how you were going to support yourself?
Yes.
So, yeah,
We didn't move over until we'd retired and we knew what our pensions were.
And generally, the pensions are accepted here, aren't they?
Oh yeah, well, we were both GPs, and so we earned reasonably well, and our pensions, NHS pensions, are pretty good and inflation proofed. So we didn't have any great worries about that.
Yeah, definitely peace of mind, isn't it? Coming over that. I think some people can come unstuck. I get my first pension in January. So excited.
Got a few more years to go to my old age pension.
Well, that's what mine is. Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Did you give it any thought to run a gîte or a B&B or anything?
No.
Don't blame.
Well, Sally often says that maybe for the company, if anything happened to me, she might run a gîte.
I might run a B&B as a gluten-free B&B.
Yeah, it'd probably be popular. Yeah,
But it
but
would.
you're not going anywhere, Stephen. So that's not going to
no,
happen.
I don't intend to.
No.
But you never know. Oh yes, if anything happened to me, just thinking about this, I have to have regular follow-up scans, and the real difference here is that my GP can order those, whereas I wouldn't have been able to order that in the UK for my patients.
When you say order, did they not give prescriptions?
CT scan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
a doctor couldn't give a prescription for that?
It depended on area in the UK. Some areas a GP could organise a CT scan
under
or
very
MRI,
specific
but
circumstances.
usually within very strict limits.
Oh, okay.
But-
and in other areas, you couldn't order them at all.
My GP here, I went to him with a particular problem, and sciatica, that's right, and he put 2 and 2 together and made 24, and asked for an urgent MRI scan. That was on
bone scan, wasn't it?
bone scan, that's right, which would have been a minimum of 6 weeks wait in the UK. That was on Wednesday. On Saturday morning, I had the result in the post.
Mm. I know, it's incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
About living rurally, do you find it difficult without the public transport that you'd have in the UK?
Well, we're fortunate that we can
We both drive.
We both drive. We both run a car, so we haven't had to use public transport. I think in this village, we know somebody who lives without a car and gets by. I think it's difficult at times in terms of needing to get some things delivered, DIY supplies, for instance. But
What do you mean by that? It's difficult to actually get it delivered?
Well, our friend has, without a car, for instance, if you need a bag of cement, for a bag of cement, the delivery charges are so outrageous, really. Compared to the cost of the cement, it doesn't really justify it. They're much more reliant on the help of friends.
Yeah,
But
I hadn't thought of that.
having said that, just
But then you wouldn't be able to do that with public transport either.
No, that's true.
No, not easily.
And
No.
having said that, there's one bus to Evron in the morning and one bus back in the evening. Same with Mayenne, I think.
But you can get. Oh, it's the replacement for there used to be something called the Pt2 which you could order.
Yes.
And there's a different. It's called something different, but it's the same service now. So you can book transport.
Yeah, the little sort of mini buses, aren't
Yes.
they?
Yeah. Things like hospital visits and so on for people are perfectly feasible. I think, and this village is good. We've got 2 boulangeries, we've got hairdressers, there's 2 banks and a post office bureau in the Mairie, and we've got healthcare, and we've got 2 supermarkets, Carrefour Contact and a little mini supermarket.
Several hairdressers.
Yeah, so really,
Yes.
you'd do fine with that one, apart from your DIY, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, there's an Agrion as well.
Yes.
So if it's something you can actually carry, it's not difficult.
So these are all within walking distance?
Yeah.
So
Within
actually,
20 minutes walking
thinking about the
distance.
bag of cement, get a wheelbarrow and
Go down to Agrion.
Exactly.
but not so easy for 75 perhaps, or
I don't know, some of the French 75s would do it.
Yes.
We've got our neighbour in his 90s and he's still wandering around the village all the time. It's incredible.
Yes.
Oh, so you've obviously had to register your cars since you've been here. Was that a problem?
Well, Sally registered her car. She got a hand holder to do it.
Oh, right.
I sold.
Did you use Valerie by any chance?
No,
Nearly everybody else has.
Yes. No, I found somebody through an online forum because I was investigating doing it myself. And I think it cost 40. My French wasn't really up to it, and it cost something like €40 to get someone else to do it. But this was pre-Brexit, so it was a little bit easier. Yeah, it wasn't a problem.
Did you find it expensive, the registering? Because that's one thing. I think some people forget how much it's going to cost if they bring their car over.
I think again because it was pre-Brexit, so there weren't any import duties.
No, that's the thing.
And my car is not the youngest, so the malus tax was relatively low, and I think they've ramped that up a lot recently.
Oh, really?
And if you've got the import duties and the VAT and everything else, it adds up. But I think your car was going to be more expensive because it was newer, your Volvo, which is one reason why we didn't bring it over.
Talking about transport, do you manage? Where's your boat now? Where does that stay?
North Brittany.
Oh, okay.
So it's a 3-hour drive, which is quite relaxed, really. Good roads.
It's just included in your trip, isn't it? Sort of thing, on your holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, previously when we lived in Wolverhampton, the boat was 3 hours away in Ipswich. The problem with that was that we were going for a weekend sailing and then having to get back for work. Whereas now, if the traffic's terrible and it takes us 6 hours instead of 3 to get back, it doesn't really matter. We haven't got school and work the next day.
Exactly. One thing I forgot to touch on was the integrating. So have you been welcomed into your town? They know you're here, sort of thing, and you managed to.
Yes, we've had Madame Le Maire come and knock on our door. She asked someone else who lives locally and speaks English and French and used to act as a translator for the old notaire, if we were over 65, because for the over 65s meal, and specifically asked about us, and she said, I didn't think you were, but I thought I'd better just check. No, we're not, not yet. And then Madame la Maire appeared and invited us anyway.
And we had invited a number of local English to the same meal, and then decided we were the translators. Yeah, interesting. They're keen on us integrating, and we try to.
But you, I mean, we're doing your petanque and everything is still part of that, isn't it, as well?
And I use the local hairdresser, and you use the local barber.
Hairdresser.
Are you able to make it clear what you want in a haircut?
Yes. Just show her a picture.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Mind you, that's a hairdresser's nightmare, isn't it? Make me look like that. You are hopeful, madam.
I think it's easier as a man.
Yes.
Whereas I think you have to some extent endure the French idea of a haircut.
Well, you're probably okay with really short, because a lot of the French ladies have a short cut, don't
she won't
they?
cut. At the moment, I'm having trouble persuading her to cut it short enough.
Oh, really?
Shorter.
Well, I think we're about there. I think we've covered most things, but the only thing next would be, have you got any regrets having moved here?
No,
not on the whole.
It's a shame to be distant from family, but often that helps. Well, in the case of our daughters, helps to be a bit more independent.
I mean, I think it's been difficult when elderly parents are unwell. Luckily,
my sympathies, by the way.
Luckily, both times. I mean, my parents were both dead before we moved out here, and luckily, both times when your parents have been ill, you've actually been in England each time.
I had to go over for Mother 2 years ago.
Well, but you knew that she was unwell.
Yeah.
And you didn't just go over for her.
No. And this time with my father, we were going over anyway, and it just so happened that he fell ill and passed away whilst I was there. Well, we delayed our return a little bit.
Well, you could say that it was obviously meant to be, as they say. But,
And then, of course, we'll have to go back for the funeral, which we don't even have a date for yet. No. I think I prefer the French system of... Yeah,
it's almost too quick, because we've had neighbours die. We think we've been to 2 English funerals and 2 French now. And you just think, you hear they've died, and the next thing is, it's like 2 days later or something, within a week anyway.
Well, by law it has to be within a week.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it's so quick when it's like a month plus in UK,
but
isn't
I
it?
think
at the minute?
for family, it's a way of not getting over it, but finishing an
closure
episode.
quickly. Is that word, isn't it?
So you can move forward rather than this sort of limbo of not being able to do anything because you don't know. Yeah, you haven't said goodbye.
And also, exactly, because you depending on how close you are to the person that's died as well. It's just prolonging that grieving and everything, and then you'll always grieve for years. But that initial.
So our local mayor died just after Christmas. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, she passed away and she was cremated, and that all happened fairly quickly. But then there was a memorial service for her.
But that was only 10 days after she died.
And interment of her ashes later. But that, as you say, only 10 days later. Whereas I'm anticipating that it's going to be a month in the UK for my father's funeral. And then we're going to have to inter the ashes later.
Well, thank you both anyway. Have you got anything you'd like to tell people, that warn them of, or to be aware of?
I think to be aware of the fact that actually this is a different country and people think differently. It's not just England in with French language, the whole attitude to life, the French work to live. Work is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And actually what's important, much more so I think than in England, that I've seen, is the living bit of it. So the having time, the taking time to be with family, those sorts of things are much more important to the French.
And it's like if they want a holiday and they run a restaurant or anything, they don't
close
get
it.
someone to take over. Yeah, they just shut it down. Well, I'm having my holiday. That's it.
Yeah.
Very frustrating, but you understand why.
Yes.
They're much less interested in material things. The thing I would say to people is work hard at learning the language. You've got to treat that like a job.
Yeah, if you dedicate the time to it, it won't seem as long. And I think people can be scared, especially in our sort of age group, that they think they can't retain enough, and that's why they can't learn it. But try it and get something from it, won't you? So,
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you very much again. Thank you.